To start off the show, we want to welcome on some guests. We've made it a point to try and have on as many of the local high school champions as we can, coaches and even players. And today we've got Ridgeline softball, head coach Michael Anderson, Brielle Gardiner, pitcher, and Anne Wallace, who I have to apologize for pronouncing her name wrong for like an entire year. Ridgeline softball, they went 30-1 this season. They won the Region 11 title. They were 10-0 in region play, and they swept through the playoffs, winning the 4A state title. Max Preps ranks Ridgeline as the number one softball team in the state of Utah and 12th nationally. Welcome on to the show, guys.
Thank you.
So, I guess just want to start off with 30-1. I want to ask this question. Maybe we'll start negative and we'll work our way up. 30-1. Can you guys name the team you lost to and the score?
Spanish Fork. I don't remember the score though.
5-3.
There you go. It's like, I look it up.
Am I accurate?
Yes.
5-3.
5-3. So I guess kind of the one, negative on there. Of course, Spanish Fork up there. I think they were ranked third by Max Preps in the state. So it's not like you lost to some kind of scrub team out there. But I guess just does that motivate you at all, like losing that game, or is that just a game you lost in what is overall an absolutely spectacular season?
I feel like part of what we talked about is the kids came back that next week and said, let's just meet up at our place, turn the lights on, and play at 1 o'clock in the morning, and let's do it again. And so they were kind of that mindset, let's get back into what we're doing. And so, I don't know. What did you guys think on that?
I think it was almost good that we lost that game because we built up from that game.
Yeah, I think it definitely helped us. It definitely showed that we weren't invincible, so it made us work harder and it made us just come out stronger in the end.
How did that game come about? Did that was it regularly on your schedule, or did it come as a, hey, we've got an opening, we're pretty good, we want to test ourselves against somebody else who's really good too?
So we've played in the last two state championships before this. And so what's starting to happen now is teams don't see Sardine as this end-all, but they actually see us as a good enough team. So Spanish Fork reached out to us this year and wanted to schedule a home, and next year we'll go down to their place. And so we picked up them and Riverton and Bingham, some of those bigger schools. Riverton and Bingham actually played for the state championship for 6A. And so we now are kind of in that place where those more powerful schools want to play us. And so they'll actually travel up here, and we'll go down there and play them.
So you played the 5A and 6A state champions this year.
And also the 3A state champion.
Oh, there you go. Just
We played Grantsville, too.
you call it the 2A and 1A schools, too?
Yes.
Start calling the champions from other states. Just start going down and just start making a checklist.
Yes.
So, Annie, you mentioned before the show you're committed to Texas. Now, you got one more year to play here at Ridgeline, but just walk through the process committing to, obviously, a very good school. I think you said they were playing for the softball national championship, good old Red River rivalry going there in the national championship series.
Mm-hmm. My thought process, it's very nice going into Texas. I wanted a lot of challenge. I like the challenge. So Texas is the school for me because I had different offers as well, but Texas was the school for me.
How nice is it to get that out of the way when you've got your senior season coming up? You don't have to worry about everything else going on with recruiting.
It felt good finally committing, but I also still had to keep playing my best to keep that scholarship.
So, and I mentioned this before the show too, this is your second state title this year because you were on Ridgeline's basketball team. I should ask, how many championships do you have under your belt? Because obviously you've been on these teams for several years now.
I have 4 right
4?
now. Yeah.
Gosh, dang.
Hashtag winner.
So you got to fill out the whole hand full of rings.
Yes.
There you go. So, Bree, I want to ask you this, if I can reach around my monitor and see you've got a little crowded room here. As coming in as a freshman, what was that like in stepping in, being basically the pitcher, pitching, I think, 162 innings or something like that? What was that like for you, stepping in and being the pitcher right away?
I mean, it was really fun. It was super fun to be challenged coming in, and it was great to have the team behind me that I do. It made it a lot easier to accomplish what we accomplished, and it's great pitching to the best catcher in the state. She's out there. She calms me down a lot when I Because sometimes I like to pitch on emotions, and so sometimes she'll come out, calm me down. But it's honestly, this was a great season. It was pretty fun.
So you mentioned pitching on emotions. What is your I am angry as heck pitch?
Probably just a drop ball. Would you agree?
Yes.
When I get angry, I just like to go straight at him, just attack.
Just
so.
all gas.
Yeah.
There you go.
Coach, let me ask you just what's been fun over the last week or so as we've been talking to championship coaches is about putting a team together and developing a winning culture. And we routinely hear some similar themes, but for you, what has it been like for you as you've built this team that has become a great program? It's not sometimes a team success can be realized because you have one or two or a handful of really talented players specifically, but when you see a team continue to win over years, it's not just a few select players, it's a program. So what's it been like for you building that at Ridgeline?
The interesting thing is it really took a turn for us about 3 years ago. As a coaching staff, we used to be all about calling every pitch, calling every play on the field. And then what happened is we stepped back and realized and started giving the kids more credit. And so not only controlling our culture, but also controlling what happens on the field. And so like Anne will call probably 90% of the pitches that we throw. And then what happens is that rolls over into the other parts of our culture too, which is it's governed and run by the kids. And so the kids are the ones that do the communication. The kids are the ones that decide when we practice, how long we go, and what we do. And what we had is a special group this year that was willing and wanted to work harder than probably a normal coaching staff wanted to. And so these guys wanted to dig in and do some things. The one thing I tell you is these two represent a lot of our culture. If you go look at the end of state, when we're done, the best attribute these two have is the ability to lead from behind. A lot of times you'll see people want to be the vocal leader out in front of everybody. But the last two people we had in our line when we were shaking hands going through with the other team is these two. So even though athletically and different things that they do, they represent our culture, which is about being about other people first before you're about yourself. And so if you lead from behind, that's the best way to do. And so
I want to ask Anna and Bree kind of about that. What it's like for you guys as players to be part of the leadership structure, be leading practices, be calling plays. Because obviously you guys play for a lot of other teams, a lot of club teams. What's that like for you as players on this team versus maybe some other teams you've been on?
I like how we do it on this team because I feel like in the end we're the ones on the field. So it's nice to, like in practice, have control of everything because you're going to have control of it on the field. And it's good to trust your players. I feel like when the team's player-driven, we end up trusting our players more to get the job done. So I like that part of it.
Yeah, I agree as well. Like just having trust in each other and having more control of the game. And yeah.
And I've always found it interesting when we talk to high school coaches, there's that I don't know if it's coordination or maybe communication, or maybe it was just expectation from what you're doing at the high school level and what you're hoping you get out of club level or youth programs that kind of feed into what ultimately gets handed off to you. What's that process been like for you to try to develop a certain standard that's now expected at your school to be able to compete at a very high level?
So actually we have 6-feeder teams that we have from age 10U through 18. You don't have to play for us to play for the high school team. Both these kids play for other teams, but we basically have some feeder stuff that comes into that. So the great part about that for those kids that play there is they have the opportunity to play with each other all the time. A lot of times in the summer when you meet up, you're going to get together, and we played a team over at CSI just this past weekend with our summer team. And there's a team out of Boise, which we ended up beating by 8, but they were from 6 different high schools. And so we have a traveling team that these guys also pick up on as they come. And so like Bree will go play some games there, but then she picked up with us probably 5 or 6 times last year. And so the power of what we have for our culture is it's able to be maintained throughout the year. And as weird as it is, we can find 10 months in the year to play softball. And so we have to leave the valley a little bit to do that. But that is kind of what I think is key to it. Anne's been with us for multiple years on that too. But like these two are going with Brie's team next week to Kansas, and they play on a team out of Washington that is ranked nationally too. But even with that, we can still come back together and have an opportunity to learn.
Wow, it's amazing.
So kind of walk me through the process beginning of the year. As a team, obviously at that point, you won a title a couple years back. You'd been to the finals the year before, last season. Coming into the season, was it basically like we're going to make the title game? I don't know if I want to use the term championship or bust, but is that kind of what you guys were looking at and setting up for this season?
So we lost 7 seniors last year. Okay, and so that to me was hard. So this is a brand new team. I can't remember any practice that we ever talked about what happened to us last year. I can't remember one practice that happened. And we kind of went clean slate and let these guys be their team with who they wanted to. Now, I did hear from Anne one time when we were playing down at Provo, and we'd won the first game. Games 2 and 3 last year, she had a little bit of trouble with some change-ups. And so this year, she flat out said, not going to happen to us. And matter of fact, that was the turning point in our championship game, is Anne hits a changeup out on an 0-2 count over deep center for about 240-foot home run. And that changed things. So I think mentally Anne might have had that. Maybe she could address that. But I don't think we addressed too much of what happened to us last year. We kind of went clean slate on that.
So yes, Anna, do you want to talk about that play, hitting that change? You talk about this was in the championship series this year?
Yep, actually final game that sealed the game.
So it's game 2. Just walk us through that play, that situation, kind of your mindset there.
Well, what was going through my mind was I've been in this position before, like last season. But last season I just kind of wanted to hit the ball instead of like take my time and be calm. But this season I was calm. I've been in this position. I just need to go hit the runner, move the runner, or hit the runner in. And then that's what just happened, a home run over center.
Who was your runner that was in front of you at the start of the inning?
Bree. It was Bree.
There you go.
It was Bree.
So we've got Ridgeline softball head coach Michael Anderson, or is it Mike Anderson?
I go by either.
Okay, I've seen both ways. Anne Wallace and Brielle Gardiner here on the Full Court Press. I want to talk about a couple aspects of your team because in terms of runs scored, you guys were like top 5 in the entire state, not just 4A. And then in runs allowed, you were the top team in the entire state. I think the next closest, you were at 38, and I think the next closest was almost double that, like 69 or 70. It's just, what was that like having, one of the best offenses, one of the best defenses? How do you going about setting up a team that's so balanced on, being able to hit the ball, drive in runs, as well as almost never allowing one?
So an interesting thing, just an interesting stat, is this year our team we're now number 2 all-time in the state for most stolen bases in a year. Now, last year was number 1 for us, and we're number 1 in the state, then the year before we were number 3. So the 3 top are based on stealing and offensive production. And so stolen bases, we now hold the top 3 in the state of Utah all-time for stolen bases. But these kids come to practice, and you can ask, we run tough practices. We spend a lot of time running bases, and we end the day usually by competing against each other, and we play 7 innings as fast as we can. And it's me pitching, which is easy pitching, and so there's a lot of offense when that happens. So they're used to lots of offense. But what happens is that scoring, I think, gave us the cushion and ability that no matter what happened to us on defense, we could get ourselves out of that hole. Now, there was a point there in state, if you go back and look, Bree had actually pitched 32 consecutive scoreless innings, which is absolutely amazing. And then at that point, I think we only gave up 2 runs in the final 5 games. But those 2 things balance each other.
So on the subject of steals, who is the best on your team?
Noodle, that's her name.
Yes.
Addie Hansen.
Hansen.
Addie Hansen. And the reason why she's called Noodle is because she's about as thick as a piece of spaghetti, I think. But that makes it so she can run
That kinda
faster.
helps. Very, very aerodynamic there.
Not a lot of wind resistance to her. And so she ended up this year, she has 125 career stolen bases, which puts her second all-time in the state. 132 is the record. So
Just needed a few more.
she needed a few more. So
That's incredible. I know we've been really highlighting the nature of this being a student-led team, but there's a lot that goes into this with parents, your coaching staff, just the general support that has to come together to create a team like this and have the run that you've had to.
I put that in every high school situation, you're going to have parents that see with their heart, and it's hard for them to see through things. But I would also put that our program, I feel like we have some of the best parents, if not the best parents in the state, because people sit back and they trust the process. And sometimes that's the hardest thing to do. My son goes to Mountain Crest and played basketball there, so I sat this year and I get a chance to sit in the stands as a parent, and that kind of helped me a little bit as a coach to remember what it feels like to be a parent when I'm coaching, so that you can communicate with them and do those things. But we have great parents that support the program. It doesn't mean that everybody agrees with every time whoever starts or whoever does things. But in the end, I really think everybody had their oars in the water and we're rowing the same direction.
So I want to ask kind of maybe a sort of specific question, maybe to the players, because obviously you're building a really good program here, but there's obviously another very good program not too far away in Bear River. I think of the last 6 state titles, I think both of you guys have 5 of them. I think they have 3, and I think you have 2 now. And obviously you both of you faced each other in the finals last year. What's that dynamic like between two obviously very good programs, you and Bear River?
How do you two feel about Bear River?
I mean, every time we play Bear River, it's a great game. So I honestly love playing them because I know I have to put my best out there. So I really enjoy playing them.
Yeah, to go on with Bree, it's always like a competition with them. And it's nice to have there's always a lot of fans there. It's very loud, and it's just great competition.
Yeah, it's some of the funnest games, us and Bear River.
What does that do for just the level of play overall for Region 11? You know, Bear River's got a long history. You're developing a very high standard as well. But just trying to elevate softball generally up here in northern Utah. What's that kind of been like as you guys observed over these last few years?
I feel like the competition within the Valley is great because competition always raises players up and makes players better. So I feel like the more competition we have in the Valley, the better. And I feel like the competition is just slowly getting better with everyone in the Valley. I feel like everyone's putting their best on the line, and it's just getting better. So that makes the whole region better.
So I would add, I don't think we could have won state without Bear River, because if you don't get a chance to play a team like that, if I remember right, I think they had played up till this year was the first year in 12 years they haven't been in the state championship game. So for 11 years running. So I'm going to tell you, Spanish Fork is strong, but I think the sister program to them that has been the state motto or state person that we follow is Bear River. And that's been a program that we've tried to follow. And so to get even with them and get in the same sentence with them, we needed that competition to prepare us for what happened at state. The other thing I'd tell you is I feel like our overall, what Bree mentioned, our region is better. From Skyview to Logan to Green Canyon to Mountain Crest, every time you play those teams, they want a piece of you. And when you're 30-1, people are bringing their best stuff at you. You know, we had a 5-0 game with Mountain Crest, and we're a hit or two away there. And so there's great teams in our valley, too, that bring it to us. And so I think it puts pressure on us, but it hardens you, and that makes it so you can make a state championship run. You have to have those teams.
As you've seen realignment affect what 4A looks like, I mean, forever it was north versus south. And, I would have assumed that teams in southern Utah maybe have an advantage where they can get on a field a lot quicker without having to travel. But Bear River, Ridgeline, you guys have still been able to stay very competitive. Now things have changed as more schools along the Wasatch Front. How has that changed the dynamic of competitive nature in 4A?
Well, it makes it more difficult. In the end, though, 5 of the 8 remaining teams that made it to the final 8, the complex, were from down St. George. And then 2 of them were for us. There was one region that didn't have a team, and then you had Payson. And so by having more teams, it makes it a little bit harder to do. The thing is, all year long in the RPI, we were ranked behind Desert Hills the whole year. And then the RPI goes dark, and then we get a chance to play. We play 5 games during that time, one of those being Bingham. And it really put and changed some things. And so it's complex by having 26 teams right now. But your power right now is probably still that way. It's probably from down in that St. George area to up here.
Sorry, Jason.
Oh, you're good.
Anne, let me just ask you, and I'll ask the same question for Bree. Outside of your home field, what field is your favorite to play on?
Besides my home field?
Yes.
Honestly, I would say Desert Hills. They have a really nice field. Their grass is very nice. Fence is a nice distance, and yeah.
On the other hand, I'd say Bear River, just because they always bring the fan base, and their park's always loud, and I just love Bear River because it's always just a fun game. So
I would actually say these 2 kids love it when there's opposition. I actually think they bring it harder when you got everybody on top of you. If you go to Bear River game, man, they're lined out both sides, and there's 45 banners you walk in past all their state championships, and everything's red, and people are yelling at you. And I think that's when these kids really begin to mature, is because of that environment.
So we'll ask one final question here, and that's just what's next? You got next year. I mean, all 3 of you going to be back with Ridgeline. You prepping for back-to-back? 3 out of 4? What's the situation looking like for the team going into next year? You said you lost like 7 seniors last year. Is it a similar situation, or are you bringing a lot of players back?
We lose 5 seniors this year, but we also have an incoming class that'll have between 9 and 12 freshmen coming in. It'll be one of the strongest classes we've ever had. I think we're at that critical moment in a program. When you win 2, all of a sudden you're not just somebody that got lucky one tournament. But I think we're approaching that place, and these 2 will be keystones for us to where we have a chance to do some things in the next few years that could establish us maybe a lot more long time on things. And so I think there's some things that are really positive right now. And so I think we're barely touching what I hope we can become.
I'm really excited for next season because after winning 2 championships, you're always going to get everyone's best, and the target on your back just becomes bigger. And I love getting everyone's best. I love playing in pressure situations, and so I can't wait for next season because we're going to get the best out of everyone. So it's just going to be a lot of fun games, and we're going to continue to improve. We're going to make the most out of every day, and so I'm just super excited for next season.
I agree with Bree.
Ready to go for the 5th championship? Maybe
Yes.
6th. You got basketball.
You got another hand. You got more space for more rings.
I like space right there.
Why not? Why not?
Ani probably likes rings more than she likes talking.
Well, she's got a lot of rings, so man, that's justifiable.
Ridgeline softball. Hey, congratulations on an incredible season, incredible program that you guys have built. Best of luck next year. And thanks for coming down and sharing some of your experiences with us. And, we're going to be excited to see what happens in 2025.
Thank you for
Thank
having
you.
us. We appreciate it.
Yeah, we'll keep a close eye. We're going to go ahead and take a break. When we come back, we'll have more here on the Full Court Press.